We are starting with the chapter number 6, working with built-in helper classes in ASP.NET MVC. Okay, so we will see these things in this chapter. Using HTML helper class, we can create HTML controls programmatically. HTML helper classes are used to view to render HTML content. HTML helper mostly is a method that returns a string. It is not mandatory to use HTML helper classes for building a ASP.NET MVC application. Means we can use HTML helper classes to like design the or design the controls on the MVC in the MVC application, but it is not mandatory to use it. We can use it HTML controls also. We can build the ASP.NET MVC application without using them, but HTML helpers helps in the rapid development of the view. The HTML helpers are more lightweight as compared to ASP.NET Web Forms controls, as they do not use view state and does not have the event model. Okay. So there are some few types of HTML helper classes. These are like standard HTML helper, then strongly typed HTML helper, and templated HTML helper classes. So below is the table where they have given these helper classes extension method, then strongly typed method, and then HTML control. So this is our what we can say standard HTML helper class method, which comes under helper HTML helper class. Okay, then this is the strongly typed of HTML type of that class, right? And this is the output which comes in the browser finally. Okay, so this is how this table is given. You guys can go through these things. Okay, now we have given the list of HTML helpers which we can use in our ASP.NET MVC. Okay, so here they have given how we can like add HTML helpers in our project, but we will directly see these things in action. So let's flip to Visual Studio and take a new application. Okay, so I am taking new application. Here I am going to take new ASP.NET application. Scroll. Okay, let's add this. Here I am taking MVC project only. Let's say okay. Okay, so project is created. So here we have to add one controller. Add controller, and we will call it helper demo. Helper demo. Add this. Okay, so let's add one action method here. We will call it, our first type is what? Standard HTML, right? Okay, this is our type. Let's configure these things in our root config. So controller is equal to this and action is equal to this, right? Okay, let's add view. Whenever I'm adding view, in that case, I am not using layout page for now. Okay, for our understanding. So let's add a view. So this is the view we have added, which is having full HTML, right? Now we have to see standard HTML helper. So we have a like begin form, then begin text, text box, radio button. So we have a lot of like standard HTML helper controls available in this standard HTML helper classes. Okay, so this is the list. This is what strongly typed. Okay, so let's flip to Visual Studio and we will see these things in action. Okay. So first point is begin form. So I will show you this syntaxes and its meaning. So it start with @HTML and make sure we have to use all the HTML helpers with @razor engine. Okay. So @HTML.begin form is used to what we can say used to set the form properties of the form control in the ASP.NET MVC. Okay, it has some method input parameter. So first is our action name. So I am giving my action name to this standard HTML helper. Okay, then second one is our controller name. So I am giving it to this. And the finally form method equal to post. Okay, so let's make this change and run this project. Okay, so we can see that it has printed over here. So come here. If you see here in the HTML section, you can see that it has created that tag form action equal to this method equal to post. Okay, system.mvc.web.this. Okay, so this is what this is how it is designed here, right? Okay, so basically this is the button input type equal to submit, which is having type submit, right? So whenever we will click on this form, it will post to this this controller and this method, this action method, right? So let's create one post action method. So this is my post action method. I'm giving it to HTTP post. But as we know, it should be overloaded, right? It is having right now. It is having same method definition. So we have to overload this. So let's take a class here. So we are going to use this class for our understanding. Let's create an object. Okay, we will call it model, right? Let's define one breakpoint here. Okay, we don't need it this here right now. Okay, so we have defined one class here, right? This is the class which is having some properties, and this is the HTTP post method for this view, right? Now we can see that the submit button is there. Okay, if I will click on this, it will submit the form to that standard HTML helper, right? Because we have mentioned in the form control The controller name is this, right? And action name is this, and the type is post. So that's why it has called HTTP post method, right? This method it has called because here we have mentioned HTTP post. And the by default, if we have not defined anything on the top of the action method, so it is a HTTP get method, right? So by default, it is HTTP get. So let's run this. So this is how it works. If I will change this setting to get, and if I will run this again, uh, so it will go to this method and not this on click on submit button. Okay, so here we have changed HTTP form method to get, right? So because of this, what happened when we posted the form from the UI, it has gone to this method, right? And previous to this, it was defined as a HTTP post, right? So that time it went to this method, right? I can show you this again. If I will make it post, if I will run it, okay, view loaded, submit button is there. If I am clicking on submit button, it is going to this post method, right? Now we have a different kind of HTML helper classes. So we have like label, then text boxes, then we have a password field, then we have radio button, then we have a drop down list. Okay, so I will show you how we can like use these things there. So let's go to our form. So here simply inside that begin form, we have to use our control. So at the rate HTML dot label. Okay, and inside that label we have some properties to that method, right? So I am giving label name equal to name. Okay, if I were to take text box, we can get intelligence here. Okay, so this is how we can define it. Okay, okay, now we have added this code, one text box here, and let's see how it looks like in the browser. Okay, you can see that it has printed that uh, text box here, and the username is here, right? So we have to add one break line up, up upside, right? Okay, so here is the it is showing. If I go to view page source, you can see that it has created that form action right here. Now break line, then here for label, it has created label for, and for input, for text box, it has created input ID equal to this, name equal to this, and type equal to text. So this is how it converts that HTML helpers into the HTML control classes. So it has given here in that table. So we have seen this. So here they have given all the types which are converted into. Okay. So make sure you guys will go through these things. Now what I am doing, I am taking all the ready code from this file. I will explain you this code. Okay, and I am putting it into the directly into our form. So let's take it here and Okay, so I will explain you this code. So as we have taken text box, the same way we have taken that user phone, then user email ID. So we have taken text box. Then we have taken password field for user password. Then for radio button, we have taken that radio button and we have passed that radio button name. Here we have passed radio button can have like multiple values. So we have given here value as a class. Okay. Now the same syntax is used for female here, right? Now here what we have done, we have taken one list and that list is our strongly typed list. Okay. So this is nothing but our generic list. So we have created this list here and then we have passed that list to this drop down list. This is my drop down list and it is having that list. So it is having these two values, two values, India and UK, right? Then we have taken one checkbox here. So this is how this form is designed. Now, if you what we can say, if you see here one thing, so here the name we have given in the text box and the name we have given in that model must be same. Then only it will match the properties and it will like bind the data to that model. Okay, so I will show you these things. Here you can see that only the name property is having here I am yes, only this property is matching with this, right, model. But here we have like given user phone and here it is phone, right? So this is the difference. So let's run this and see it how it designed. So this is how it is designed. It has created text boxes, then radio button, okay, then it has created a drop down and that check boxes, right? If I right click on the page and go to view page source, you can see that it has created these things. Label for, right? Then input type. Then it has given the same name, ID and name, which we passed that control, right? That HTML helper method. So user phone is the ID and username is the name is the username, right? Now for drop down, it has created select list options, right? So this is how it is converted into the HTML page, right? Now let's add some data here, uh, and password is 12345. So UK. When I will click on submit button, so it will be submitted to our HTTP post method, and it is having that model, right? So let's click on submit button. So if I click on submit button, I can see that here only the name property is binded here, right? Because the values which are having in that class, that properties and the IDs which are given to these text boxes or these controls are not matching for all, right? It is matched only for name, right? Okay, so make sure whenever you are defining these things, you have to match these things. Only that in that case only you will be able to, what we can say, able to match the your model and your class, right? So if I will match these things, for example, user phone, so I will say phone. In the text boxes I am giving the properties only because we are taking the text boxes properties only, right? For email we are taking this. Do we have password? Yes, we have. For country, this is my country, right? Have we taken the term? So yes, we have taken it. So let's run this again and see if these things are matching or not. Okay, so now maximum properties have binded to their values, right? This way, right? So this is how we can define HTML helpers and we can bind it to our model, right? Okay. Now, next point is so we have seen standard HTML helpers. So there are more controls. You guys can like Google these things. You can find it and you can practice for these things. Okay. Now they have also given here, I means how it will render in the HTML page. So you can see these things. Okay. Now second type is strongly typed HTML helper classes. Okay. So the other type is we have that is a strongly typed HTML helper classes. So in this case, we use a strongly typed view. Okay, and we use all the HTML helper will which will like end with for word, right? So for example, for label we have a label for text box we have a text box like this. For radio button we have a radio button for checkbox we have a checkbox for. Okay, and the syntax of using these things is what we have to directly bind model to these things. Okay, to that our HTML helpers, strongly typed HTML helpers. So let's flip to Visual Studio and see these things in action. Okay, so let's take one more action method here. I will call it. So by default is the get. So here we will call it strongly typed. Okay, and delete this object because we have to pass it to HTTP post method. So right click and add view. Do not use the layout page for practice. Okay. Now let's add its HTTP post method also, and we are using the same model in this also. HTTP post. Okay. So let's have a debugger here. Now what we are going to do here is we are going to use same controls which we used in the standard HTML control. Only we are using the strongly typed controls here, right? So let's use this code here. So we have to add our model reference. So whatever the strongly typed model we have to define. So we have to define here first. So I have defined my strongly typed model. So make sure you will give the proper your what we can say namespace name, right? So my namespace name is HTML helper. If I will write this and if I will click on dot, so it will show me that register class, right? So this is my uh, namespace name, right? So now this view is strongly typed with this type of class, right? Okay. Now second thing is what in this case whatever we are going to like use it will be strongly typed and the syntax of the strongly typed is pretty much same. I will show you these things. So let's use our previous HTML form method. So let me use these things. So here I am putting that HTML form methods, all the code. So from this all code, let's delete and this standard HTML helper method code, right? Now we have here only what we have input type equal to submit button, right? And then we have these things, right? Now here what we have to do, we have to change our controller and action name. Only we have to change the action name because we are in the same controller now, right? So we have changed it. The type equal to post. So whenever I will post the form, it will post to the post HTTP post method, right? Now the syntax of using HTML helper is at the rate HTML dot label for, and inside this what we have to do, we have to use lambda expression. m dot. So it will available all the properties from our model, which is inside the register class, right? So this is how we can use a strongly typed HTML helper class. So in this case, what happened? We don't need to manually maintain the ID property of the text boxes or of the control, right? Which we have done already in the this normal standard HTML helper. So we needed to match these properties with uh, our model, right? But in case of strongly typed, we do not need to do these things. It will automatically managed because we are using strongly typed. We are directly assigning the properties of that model class here in the program, right? So this is how it will work. So let's run this form only. So let's change this to our root config in the action part. Okay. So let's run this. Okay, so it has created this on the HTML page, but I think it is having some problem. Let's see what is the problem. Let's use this code. I think we have missed that post method syntax, right? So let's correct these things. So I'm using directly ready code from my other form. Here only we have to replace our these things. Okay, my action name and my controller name. Type equal to post. Fine. So let's run this again. Okay, so it will load this strongly typed helper view. Okay, so it has created this all controls. If you right click on the view page source, you can see that it has given that uh, our model property as a ID property to these controls, right? So here it has automatically given these things. So we don't have to manage these things manually. It is automatically managed by our intelligence and our what we can say um the standard HTML helper, this strongly typed HTML helper classes, because here we are directly passing our model class property to that helper method, right? So it is giving intelligence in the MVC page, and it is helping us to like avoid the mistakes when we are writing property names and these things. Okay, so this is how we can use strongly typed helper classes in the ASP.NET MVC. Okay, so you can go through these things. We have used it for all the things. Here for list, drop down list, you can see that I have used that m lambda m dot country. Okay, for term m dot term. So this kind of things we have used here. Okay, so if we will run it, and when we will have like enter values into the text box, let me remove this debug. So let's have some values inside these things. So you will find it, it is directly binding to our what we can say, our model, right? And the properties are matched as it is, because we have not manually like done these things. It is done by our strongly typed view. Even the gender property is also binded here, right? If you go to gender, you can see that the simply we have passed that gender name, right? Okay. And it is working like a radio button, right? In this. So this is how we can use a strongly typed HTML helper classes. Okay. Now we have a third type, that is our templated helper in ASP.NET MVC. But we will see this chapter in our next session in our MVC series. Okay. So this is the third type of HTML helpers available in the ASP.NET MVC. Okay. So we are done with the chapter number 6.